Okay, guys, before we get into this, I want to make a little caveat. And the caveat here is that I actually don't know what in the world I'm doing. I'm not an expert on how to take a team that's like falling apart and how to get them to play well. But I'll tell you what's worked for me, and I'll tell you what the strategy is here. So if you haven't watched this so far, it's fine. I was with this team called Pansa East FC over in American Samoa. I left them because the dressing room was falling apart and I was releasing players left and right and I was kind of tilting. So I decided to go over here to Mars FC, which is a relegation challenge here in Taiwan. We have 7 matches. We actually have 6 left now to try to avoid relegation. And we just won. Who did we beat? We beat Taiwan, who are the best team in the league. So we have not yet avoided the drop, but we are sort of well on our way. And this is all, of course, against, that win was, for the most part, against the run of play. And this is definitely against expectations. So that's the reason why I decided to make a video on sort of what the plan is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, there are 5 matches left. We have 5 matches left to do the impossible, which is to somehow get ourselves out of this zone and up towards the center. I don't know if it can be done. We're going to try our hardest. Anyway, all that's beside the point. What do you do when you're put into the situation? That's what the question is here today. What do you do if you have a team that's in the middle of a relegation fight and you're like, what do I do? And you were plopped into it. Couple of things I do first. First of all, it depends upon what your transfer window is like. I was very, very fortunate in that the transfer window was open when I was hired onto this team. So you see there's this big window between August 29th and September 24th, almost a full month in the middle of the season, right? If you look here at the schedule, if we can get it to open up, you can see that, yeah, there's this kind of big gap here between August and September. It's not really that big or that visible, right? Really interesting season, which starts in March and is kind of like starts in April, is kind of slow as it kind of moves its way around. Lots of time in here for friendlies, by the way, if that's what you want to do, and I highly recommend it. And the business end of the season is the end that we're kind of coming to here in November. But the important thing to do is to take a look and see where you are in terms of the transfer window, because if you are in the middle of a transfer window when you come in, you can start making some personnel changes. Maybe you can get rid of some of these guys who have been on your team for a while who are not doing so well, pull some new guys in and make things happen. So in terms of transfers, what we've done here is we've made a lot of transfers. We brought a whole ton of guys in. We brought, 20-something guys in. We brought 21 guys in. There are a couple of these who we then gave a free transfer to or got rid of because we were like, yeah, this guy is not really that great. We didn't sell that many. We were lucky we had some sort of a budget by the time that we came in here. That's something you might not be able to control, and I would imagine in most cases you're not going to have a nice-looking budget like this. We had money, and so we spent money, and we're continuing to earn money here as a team. But, of course, that's not going to be enough because what you're going to run into are players who are unwilling to go to your team because they're in last place and because they're going to get relegated, right? And you want to talk about pressure. If we're relegated, it's game over. There's no way for me to go on to a different or to go on down a level because I didn't load the level below this one. This is the only level we have loaded. So we better do well, and if we don't do well enough, then you're going to find me at a different club. So that's the first thing that we want to do, right, which is try to bring in players who are good. Second thing that we want to look at, though, is a tactic. Now, I don't really fully recommend using a tactic like this. This is more of like a ball control type tiki-taka tactic. You might want to do something that's a little bit more defensive, maybe something that's on a cautious mentality, something like that, to try to avoid, giving up a bunch of goals. But we've definitely had success here. We just beat the best team in the league, in the country, right? So, something to consider. Change your tactic around. Look at what might work, what might not work. Play around a little bit. See if you can figure out something that works well together for you. That's another very, very important point. Right? You want to mess around with the tactic. Don't do what it is that they came in with, and think of creative ways in which you can use your players. Right? So we don't have much by the way of wingbacks. We're going to try this Chen Shishun, who was pretty unimpressive. What did he play last time? He was playing back in the back. He's barely able to play back there, right? He's really a left winger, so we're going to play him at this wingback role and sort of see. Do I even have him training in that role? I do. So that's kind of what we're going to do in this next one. And then Menugong was actually really, really good in this wingback role in his last match. He got a 7.8 rating coming on at halftime. And so we're going to try to see how things go for him as well. That's the sort of thing that you kind of have to do here, right? We don't have a lot of wingbacks in Taiwan. So I've got to run around and see who I can find. Now, maybe there are a bunch of wingbacks here. I just don't know about them, right? I haven't had time to scout anybody, right? So we were buying players blind behind, and then we're trying to use players that we have or players who came to us kind of out of position creatively to sort of make something happen. That's what you have to do when you're in this type of situation. So that's the other thing you want to do. You want to play with the tactic, be a little bit creative, and if you know which players are the best players, like try to get them in your team one way or another. You'll notice there are no star ratings. If you haven't watched my channel before, I don't use them. I don't believe in them, right? It's against my philosophy of Football Manager. Whatever, I just don't use them. I think it's more fun to play without them. So that's the other thing you want to do. And then finally, it depends again on where you are in the season. But if you have any kind of break, what you really need to do, not go to the medical center, what you really need to do is schedule these friendlies. That's what you want to do. You got your new tactic, you got new players coming in or guys going in and out. Now we got to have friendlies and play as many as you can. Don't manage them yourself. Let the AI manage them. Put it to the assmen, But you want to play friendlies. You have to play friendlies because you've got to get the guys to start working together as a team. You've got to get them used to each other, and you've got to do whatever you can to get those dynamics to turn around. Nothing does that better than playing friendlies. So as you can see here, we have 2 friendlies a week. We have a match this week, a match the next week. And then it looks like matches every week thereafter. So we're not going to have to worry about doing a whole bunch of friendlies in the middle of the season. But as soon as November's done, you better bet that we're going to go for friendlies again. I think we have the month of December off, and then with January we start up again with the transfer window. Once teams are back and once we're ready to go, we're going to have a whole ton of friendlies. We're going to do this 2 a week. Now, especially if you're on an amateur club or a semi-pro club, the 2 friendlies a week is something that's absolutely imperative. And the reason why is because you don't have enough time for training to get used to the tactic and all this other stuff. That's the reason why with this tactic, you see what our familiarity level is. I mean, it's not great, but this is actually pretty good, right? This isn't where it should be at the end of the season, which is where we're at, but we're getting really, really close, and it's because we played a lot together. Now, the truth is that the dynamics here are not wonderful. Right? I wish we could do something more with these dynamics because, I mean, poor team cohesion is not what we want. You can see it's kind of edging up a little bit, but yeah, it's not doing so great. There are some players who apparently don't get on well with me. I'm not entirely sure if I understand why, but we do have a pretty well-established player hierarchy, which is good. I usually don't have this. Usually have a whole bunch of young players who are just other players and nothing else. That's not what you want. You want to have a team hierarchy, and you want to see the guys getting together in some sort of social group. Unfortunately, Lingwanda here is as much of an outsider as he was over in American Samoa, but so it is. That's kind of the way that things are. But you want to try to have good team cohesion as much as possible, and the thing that will help you achieve that the most is playing a lot of matches together. Then they get used to the system that you have, then they understand how you want to do things, and then you can sort of allow them to learn the system, learn how to play with one another, and eventually start developing those good links and those good connections. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this season, right? I mean, because if we lose, I don't know, one of these matches, if we lose, we could still do it. If we lose like 2 or 3, we're toast, right? So we can't afford to lose. If we draw, we might be okay. But if we lose, man, it's, it's curtains. We start getting on a losing streak. I don't know what we're going to do. And guys like Mark Fenelus are just, he really, it's orange. It's not that he really doesn't like big matches. He just doesn't enjoy it that much. Although that last match has to be a big one since Taiwan were much better than us. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe we get a little poor run of form or something like that. Maybe somebody doesn't play as well as they should, and then we're in trouble again. Whatever. We'll see what happens, right? But if we have some good luck, maybe we'll be able to get out of the bottom of the league, get somewhere up here in the middle, end the season. We don't necessarily want to go to the Asian Cup next year, but get somewhere up there in the middle. And then see what we can do. See if we can move up to second or first place finish, get over to one of these cups, get a little bit more money in the team, and then we can go have a look at other things. Now, how do you find players, right, which is the other question. I've talked about this in other videos, but I'll show you how I did it. So you have to look up Chinese Taipei, thanks very much to the One China policy that even Football Manager has to abide by. And we look up Chinese Taipei. This is what I did at first, right? I didn't want to bring a whole bunch of foreigners in because I kind of screwed things over for everybody in American Samoa when I did that. You look here, our world ranking is down to 169th. We were once 155th. That's probably one of the reasons why they were willing to bring me on, right? American Samoa is a little bit below this, but not that far. And what you do here is you go look, not at the schedule, but you go look at the national teams. You look at the squad and you say, oh, okay, well, we want to get a piece of this guy, a piece of that guy, get this one, get that one, right? There's some guys here who I know. Okay, so we want to look at Miguel Sandberg. I want to go take a look and see what he's like. He's probably not going to sign for us, but I want to have an idea of who this player is, what he's like. Is he good? Is he bad? Is there something that's about him that we don't want to have or we want to avoid or whatever? Now, the national team itself, if you're a team like us, you're probably going to find a bunch of guys on here who don't want to go to play for you. You want to go down here, look at the under 23s or the under 20s. Now, a tip for you in Football Manager 2023, these guys here who are 17, they're never going to sign for you, right? I can go over here, I can approach the sign, and he's going to say no. He doesn't think that it's the right move to continue his development, right? The reason why is because he's under 17 or he's under 18. You got a guy who is 18, like Chen Yuting, right, who has a little bit of inconsistency going on. Chen Yuting actually might be willing to sign for us, right, because he's 18. As soon as these guys, these new gens are turning 18 in Football Manager 2023, they suddenly become a little bit more willing to go away from their first club and move on to you. That is a feature, not a bug. They put that in there to stop people like me, right? So I'm like a cradle-robbing fiend in Football Manager. My ideal way of playing is to sign nothing but 15 and 16-year-olds and have them on my under-18s team. I love it when my under-18s team has 4 players at every position and wins every match, and then guys sort of funnel up, and then, you know, guys who can't quite make it, who end up on the B team or the reserve squad, and they're like 21 or 22, we just sell them off, right? Get millions of euros for them, sell them off, bring in the money, go buy a whole bunch of other 15 and 16-year-olds and start the cycle again. They're trying to stop that, right? They're trying to make it so, okay, the guy has to be 18, right, before you can make it work. So if you want to play like the way I like to play, go back to FM22, right? But this is the way you do it. Go to the national teams, check this stuff out, check out these guys who are 18, and go take a look at them. If you're trying to come up with an emergency, solution, I mean, look at what the average rating is, right? You look at Chowei Jie, and you're like, okay, I want to sign this guy, right? And you go up there and you sign him, right? I mean, we might as well sign him anyways since we're here, right? No contract, no fee. It doesn't really matter, right? We can bring him on. If he's no good, he's no good. If he's good enough for the team, he's good enough for the team. We just got another midfielder, right? He's only a midfielder, but we can train him as a defensive midfielder, no problem. Right? That's the sort of attitude you have to have, though, if you're going to try to save your squad, right? Now, once you're past the emergency part, then you can go and take a whole bunch of guys and be like, all right, yeah, we want to look at these guys. We want to have a full scout of this guy. You know, we want to look at this guy who's 16. You know, do stuff like that. And then later on, you can figure out, okay, this guy's good. This guy's completely inconsistent. This guy's got a 6.34 average rating. He's not really good enough for this team. Then you kind of know basically which direction you're going to go, which players you're going to go for, which ones you aren't. But you see, the thing is that takes time. When you're in emergency situation and the board is telling you if we are relegated, your job is toast, you don't have time to sit around and wait for your scouts to stop picking their nose. You got to win now, and this is the way you win now. So anyway, there you have it. As I said again, I'm not an expert on this, right? This might all fail. You'll be able to watch it in real time, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And, you know, I'm really sweating bullets over here. But, that's the way that this works. That's the approach that I take. And I think that this is actually a pretty solid approach, especially from a theoretical level. I think that the more that we take this sort of approach to our Football Manager journey, the better off we'll be and the happier we're going to be as we play. So there you have it. I will talk with you later, and take care. Bye.